Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Michael Ronen with us today. Michael is the founder at Wonderland Immersive. He's in the creator. Actually, he's the creator of the Play Economy framework. He's a speaker. You can watch his TEDx that he did in 2025. He's helping founders achieve product market fit and teams build empathy-driven strategies. So, Michael, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to.
Thank you, Charles. It's a pleasure to be here. I grew up in Israel. I moved to England to study theater directing. I had a group of artists that came from different conflict zones, and I worked a lot on conflict resolution with interactive immersive arts. In one moment, I got really interested in location-based media, and I founded my first startup in 2012 in Berlin. I moved then to virtual reality and created a startup in 2015 in the virtual reality space with an app that captures your 360 peripheral view. Again, another attempt to change perspective and point of views. Later, I've been working in the Web3 space. I had the procedural art generation platform called Shaderverse. We've worked with big collections. Again, trying to look how does 3D art work together in combining communities, bringing communities together. I work with organizations like Burning Man on immersive design during the pandemic, doing a lot of work around what I call digital intimacy and empathy design. I worked since 2020 with my company Wonderland Immersive Design, working with founders on product market fit, technology founders especially, work with few brands in the CPG space, all over almost 50 apps and products I've been doing in different verticals. Recently, in the last 2 years, I've been working on something I call play economy. It's a term I coined to help businesses understand their customer better by applying empathy and role play simulation in the business. And I use synthetic users and generative media to help businesses to de-risk their go-to-market and figure out better what their customers want.
Love it. Let's start with the conflict resolution part. As a guy from Israel, I
Right.
think back then it was helping Palestinians talk and resolve conflicts with the Israelis. So what have you got from that program back then, and why can the metaverse be used, or technology, right, and AI be used to resolve these conflicts?
Yeah, I don't have the ordinary origin story for someone in the technology sector. I grew up in a family of theater makers, political theater makers, did in Jerusalem in the 70s. My parents already started to deal with a lot of subjects that were outside of the consensus. For me, that is the idea of theater, to be able to role play and enter someone else's shoes. And I took it really to the space of political theater between artists coming from different conflict zones, obviously coming from Israel, Palestine, Israel, Syria, Lebanon, all this mattered a lot to me. And I met a lot of artists in England when I was actually working in a coffee shop while studying theater. I work with other migrants who also share the same stories. And I realized that first, the stage is inviting conflict. So it will be interesting to bring conflict to the work, to the drama, right? You need the conflict. But also, it's a great way to use role play and simulations to share narratives and therefore build empathy towards people you dehumanize, but also to share futures and visions. Shared visions is really something we are not used to do, not in school. We are kind of future illiterate. And it's true to anything else beyond conflict, but also when it comes to conflict, it's really hard to see how can we live with the same person in the same area. But that's the reality. So I'm trying to be more pragmatic, looking at what's called protopias, pragmatic utopias, prototyping those with concept of what's called participatory future, enabling people to simulate what if scenarios. So that's mostly what I've been looking at in my theater days. And naturally, this aligns well with where the technology is today, because I claim in the Play Economy book that we are now living in time where AI is helping us to grow our AI. And part of it is being able to enter uncomfortable situations or enter the perspective of someone we really don't understand, like the enemy in the theater group.
Right. And yeah, like it's a very complex topic, right? Like resolution between Israel and Palestine. What have you seen taking like both sides of the conflict, right? Because if I would do so with an AI, I probably did back then, like just prompt an AI, hey, you're because I'm mostly on the Israel side of things, obviously, like most decent humans. Um, and I'm like, okay, I understand that their point of view, but in my mind, it's percentages, right? So there's a percentage that they're right, there's a percentage that they're wrong. Let's call it I don't know, 85% Israel and 50% Palestine in my own opinion. And most human brains, I don't think they reason like that, especially lower brains that don't operate on a transcendent side of things. They're very much into the I win, you lose type of things, right?
Right.
And
Yeah,
we
you're
took
right.
this,
That's the point. That's where the problem starts because we
yes,
don't understand the win-win situation. That's why I think it's not only important to talk about what's called shared narratives, like what's your origin story, where you come from, why you are like you are, why you think like you think. That helps, but to a degree. I mean, if you hate me and you want to kill me, I can learn why you think that, but it will not prevent you of killing me. So I need to do a change. And I think the only way to move forward to a change is to give everyone hope and to build a win-win situation. It's usually connected to economy, education, and culture. If you are able to influence those, so you'll be able to live peacefully with your enemies, like many other countries in the past who have been killing each other for decades and centuries have been. So although we want to think about it as like a 2000 years old conflict, it's not. It's actually not. It is only in the last 80 years that Israel and Palestinians have been fighting the way, maybe 90 years. But this is because of really poor political decisions, and it goes into our narratives in our minds. It goes into the way we see each other. And but like sometimes, I mean, we are in the midst of the Iran-Israel war. This is like sometimes there's like dark regimes and dark thoughts that are for decades. Like I've been afraid as a kid since the Gulf War, at least 91, from missiles, and this has been always like the mindset I was living in. So. Um, yeah, I think technology will help us accelerate as humans and grow something that is the essence of being human, which is the ability to have empathy, emotional intelligence. That's exactly what makes us human. It's the only thing machines cannot actually imitate. Like when you hurt your toe right now, I would feel a bit of pain. It's called mirror neuron, and I will feel that pain because I'm human, and we also, as humans, have this ability to play. I mean, animals do it the same. But like social play is really unique because it's the key to innovation. It's where creativity is sparked, and I don't know, like about other species role play, but we humans, we do that a lot. Shakespeare said like the world is a stage and everyone are players. And, like this joke of we are living in a simulation, it might be right. I mean, we are living with a narrative in our mind that defines who we are. Like you said, I am predominantly with this side. But like what, how? Like if you have a question, who you are in that sense, like what are
yeah, I
the
questioned it.
preconceptions? Exactly. Right.
I'm very introspective as a human being. I think like consciousness also a sign of intelligence, right? And I don't think there's a lot of that on the Palestinian side. Like higher levels of consciousness and knowing like what happens around you. I think it's also somewhat justified because they're like living in between four walls and some kind of prison, and you can't really get educated or grow in that space. And myself being a libertarian, I would hate living there, but then I would probably take my legs and move, right, and get the fuck out of there. Unfortunately, there's still places like that in the world that are that way that need some change. But I think also like the notion of property, right? Like as a digital nomad, a guy living in Mexico, I've never really been attached to my own piece of territories. I'm not saying this is fair for them because it's mostly their ex generations, their grandparents that decided to make a move there, but they did a bad move. They need to move, like, and I mean, it sounds easy said from like that. It's way harder in reality, but I just think like I tend to avoid conflict as a human being, like I'm pretty rational and never would I stand in a war zone, not even like 1 minute. And again, this is different from them, but it's just pursuing a conflict that could be somewhat easily extinguished. Now, I'm not getting anywhere with what I'm saying, but where I would be getting somewhere is, don't you feel that an AI could make better political decision, because it's cool to give them the technology at the personal level for them to engage in a conversation with their opponent, but I think that's like smaller scale. I think if
Yeah,
I
I
would want
mean,
to
definitely.
fix stuff, I would like outsource political decisions to an AI that is unbiased. We've seen many instances in this modern world in which leadership is not taken into the right hands, right? I just finished watching the what the Doug Ford, or the mayor of Toronto, that was like Trump, right? Like a Netflix documentary. That guy was all over the place. Now we have Trump leading the US for a second term.
Yeah. No, I
So
understand your question. So look, I think that AI can bring us together in a sense that it knows the information about us that would make sense, that we would come together, but we didn't know. So this is where I see an opportunity with AI managing us. Like I like Bordy, for example, it's kind of like a concierge connecting entrepreneurs. I like this idea of AI facilitates even role play and transcribe conversation and give summaries. Like this is good. When it comes to politics, and I genuinely think that we are living in this crisis of trust, in a fear economy, and now it's the climax. Um, and the only way to move out of it is for us human to grow up. And that means actually, funnily enough, to connect more to our feelings, to play, to simulate our emotions, to figure out other perspectives. I really like, I talk about it in the TED. I said that the future belongs to those who can embody another perspective and build what truly matters, the understanding of what customer really needs, kind of taking it back into the work I do now today with businesses, is trying to go through this process with product people, innovation, founders, on becoming their customer and really living their life in the shoes of their customers, method acting their customers. Method acting, like Pacino becomes the Godfather. He's like the idea that I don't know, Jim Carrey playing in the Truman Show. He's like going full on. You don't like, some go really wild and crazy with it when wake up every day as the Joker, or Truman, sorry, Andy Kaufman. So this could be a lot, but method acting is just a way to become the character and have intuition and emotional intelligence kind of like lead the way, feeling, exploring, while it's not just technical representation. I feel the processes because I relate them to my own personal experiences. I understand the character because, so the same way like the Airbnb founders, I always say they started by hosting their own leasing, and through that they understood that the customers need trust. So they created reviews. It wasn't just about the space. They created reviews, and through that there was this trustworthy community. It is about the um, tapping into the market and the core protagonist of your business, the customer. What do they go through? Why are they interested in your product? How can it be something that enhance their own human experience? How can we build products for human flourishing, especially in tech, right? In technology, we've just, oh, this is possible. We can do that. How is it helping humans? In what way? How does it enhance the human experience? We build a business. Let's do the R, like acquisition, engagement, retention, referral, revenue. Where is the customer inside this funnel? Can you make it so the customer is the focus, the protagonist in the hero's journey, and the business is supporting this journey, the decision of the protagonist to cross this threshold by themselves? The business is just the guide. The product is the guide in this customer's journey for well-being. So it's a lot of mindset on why are we building technology, why are we building products and businesses in a time where it seems like AI can take a lot from us. sometimes too much that it hurts. Not only jobs, but like creativity, innovation, like where is this space where we also grow exponentially the same way that AI grows, and how can we utilize the technology to help us grow? That's why for me, mindset of founders is so important, because that's where you can really influence the market. That's where you can influence culture. Most of the culture we've seen comes from Silicon Valley applications, because that's what people use all the time. It's like if they saw a theater show once a quarter in Greece, going to the amphitheater in Rome, going to the Commedia dell'arte in Italy, going to a Friday night show in England in the 60s. I don't know. Now it's opening a vertical format medium and consuming culture, media, content, relations. The people who created those platforms, they have a lot to do with the culture we create around.
It's just that when your customers are citizens, one, it's probably a business I would never get into, right? Because your ICP is so broad, you can't like please everyone, right? Like in the case again of Israel and Palestine. And then if I would be a business trying to do good in Palestine, for example, like, yeah, it would be called a social startup, but my customers wouldn't have much means. And I think like ultimately, as I said, the solution I would take in there and would just be to get the fuck out of there. I wouldn't want to rebuild anything in a war zone that doesn't scale. That's like that seems to be the solution here. And then when these citizens not only don't have a lot of money to pay me, so against capitalism plus elected like a terrorist group, like last time they had the opportunity to vote, it just makes my life quite impossible, right? As a business person
Yeah.
that tries to serve them,
Yeah,
it's
I don't see a direct link now between Palestine and the talk about business, but I can tell you, like in the context of a war zone, I don't know if you saw this English advertisement they did when the war in Ukraine started. Maybe it was even before, but it was following a girl and showing how quickly your world can shatter to pieces when the chaos hits, you know? We felt it a bit here. Where do you live, Charles?
in Mexico. Yeah,
Mexico,
Oaxaca,
right?
Mexico.
Right. So during the LA fires, there was like, you know, during natural disasters, you suddenly feel how the world is falling under your, like a place you thought is safe or even heaven can become a disaster zone or a conflict zone. It can happen to anyone. Part of the thing is it can happen to anyone. And the circumstances of where you have born kind of like call your destiny in many ways. And we are very privileged in the Western Hemisphere, especially in the US, to say, hey, you know, if I'm somewhere I don't like, I just get the fuck out of there, which is true. I mean, I did the same, right? In many times. I understand that state of mind, but it's not always easy. There's sometimes circumstances that you just cannot live, or it's really, really impossible, and you have to deal with it. So I'm not judging anyone. In regards to like, businesses, I think that the most important thing is to figure out how do you, like you said, like how do you focus on the one person? Because it's impossible when your ICP is so broad, right? You really need to leave the persona. That's where I don't know if you've tried a bit synthetic users or heard about these terms,
Yes.
synthetic users.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is really exciting times, because like the idea that AI can role play with you in scale, that it can take a lot of customer personas and give you immediate responses. So I have now this product innovation studio I co-founded with some very exciting founders in the space. One of them, early employee in Thrive Market, and we basically took the idea of synthetic users directly to CPG brands. So what we're doing is we're trying to simulate for consumer packaged goods companies, how can you understand your customer and de-risk your investments? There's a lot of money going in there in product development, innovation, and also in marketing. So I'm wondering, really, your opinion, Charles, also when you speak with so many founders, what have they been talking about synthetic users? What's your thoughts about this space?
Yeah, I had one person on my podcast, Michelle Baker, and I forgot the name of the platform she kept referring me to, but it's exactly this, you know, and I think it's next level. I think it's just reproducing people's personality and scaling them and potentially even creating a new persona. But as you can notice, I'm quite passionate about changing the government situation around the world. And I keep talking about that because I do think that businesses are going to become governments in the next couple of decades. I do think that the public system is eventually going to disappear. I think capitalism makes a whole lot of sense, but it needs to be skimmed or modified at the top, right? Because we've seen how it modifies itself. And I do think that managing a country is just like managing a business, right? But it doesn't mean that Trump's doing a good job. He didn't really manage a business, in my opinion. He was mostly managing a media circus. What I mean by that is that you have an ICP, they have needs, right? And you may have product market fit. And the best government would be the best company. It would be the company that adds the most value to its clients, and people would pay. They would make micropayments. UBI would become a thing also eventually. And I do think that these companies would obviously be AI led. There would be AGI companies. I only see this future. There's nothing else that can happen with like.
I mean, I think you might be right. I mean, like, look, Robert Sterling in Silverberg, there were a group of sci-fi writers in what's called the Tinted Glass group who wrote a lot about this type of scenarios for our future. A lot of them are quite bleak, quite like authoritarian kind of corporate
No, I
situations.
think
But it
they're
doesn't have to. I mean, like some company, like there has been a conscious capitalism kind of like stream with started with B Corps and other types, but it's like there's interesting conversations. I've been also part of the Web3 space. And although I thought there were a lot of bad players, bad actors
oh yeah,
in that
oh yeah,
space, I thought like the technology can enable something really
yep.
interesting.
The
My
DAO.
father, yeah, like my father grew up in a kibbutz, and his specific kibbutz was privatized, but like the idea that there's solidarity inside. Sorry, I
You're
got a call.
back.
So solidarity inside a community and corporate structures could enable kind of like companies to maybe take over the work of nations. But the core thing, and that's I think where again like this whole play economy mindset is so important for me. I want to train founders and business owners to bring that into their business, because especially if companies would become states, the state helps everyone. They helps the poor, they helps the people who are disabled. Like there's a lot of people who don't have, who are not your ideal ICP, but still the state support them, sometimes even support them more than the stakeholders who invest. And you can say it's unfair because those put so much in, those put so much less, but like we make them equally important. So that's really interesting, the dynamic you're saying where companies could become states, a feasible future. That's why I advocate so much for this play economy mindset in companies, because companies need to become more empathetic and literally role play all their stakeholders, become all the stakeholders, understand them. So yeah, that's an interesting thoughts, the future of companies and economy.
Yeah, the sovereign state book is a pretty good one as well. I think that Balaji dropped a couple of good book. Network Stage is pretty good as well.
Right.
So an amalgamation of all these technologies, and I think ultimately my ICP would just have like similar beliefs and values, right? Doesn't mean that they would be yes men, right? Because arguing about stuff and giving out your opinion is part of my values, right? As a libertarian, but I just think that the government has so many types of clients, some that have completely different philosophies that are not aligned with it, that they should just be their own country and see how a country governed by their values goes. Most of them would not go well. I do think so. So you would have that option to choose, but I say we do a round two because we already are on time. And Michael, where can people find out more about you?
So first of all, I'd love if you jump in to my LinkedIn account, Michael Ronen, and I'm the founder of Wonderland Immersive Design. If you go to wonderlandimmersivedesign.com, you can find more about my services. And if you check the book section, you could go into creating your own personalized book, which is called The Guide to the Play Economy. So it could be If you answer the question, Charles, it will be Charles' Guide to the Play Economy. So it's an interesting prototype using AI. And my book, you can also find my book on Amazon. And you can find my talk on TEDx South Congress in Austin. It's called How Artificial Intelligence Can Help Us Grow Emotional Intelligence. And yeah, what else? I have a company called Formhouse.studio where you could look if you have a brand and you're interested in simulating different scenarios with virtual focus group, and if you want to cut cost on marketing using automated generative media. So just hit us up on Formhouse. It's FORMHAUS.studio. And that's it. I'm very happy to connect on LinkedIn and Instagram, Twitter, Ronen Michael.
So that was Michael and Charles.